Notts County, at the start of the season, were able to bring in a lot of players that it now appears they can't really afford to. And yet they're also in a real position that they might get promoted. Is that fair on the other clubs in League Two?
Well, what I can tell you, I don't know that I've ever said this before, what I can tell you is that we had some concern about the level of signing, and we asked for some comfort that these people could be paid. And we have somewhere in our system a letter from a very senior legal firm guaranteeing a significant amount of money available to Notts County to cover the payments to these players. So we took what steps we believed were appropriate at the time to make sure that the club stayed within its acceptable parameters. You will know that during the course of the season, the people who were there at the beginning of the season have moved on. They sold the club sometime after we made it clear that we would insist on knowing who the beneficial owners were. I do not draw cause and effect. They can tell you whether there was cause and effect. But we made that decision, we made it public, and sometime later the club was sold. At the moment, I believe we have taken appropriate steps to protect our regulations as they apply to the club, and we will continue to do so.
Given the appalling winter we've had and the state of many of the pitches that we see across the country at the moment, would you welcome the installation of high quality FIFA sanctioned artificial pitches in English football?
Well, you may be amazed to learn that following that terrible winter and all of those terrible pitches, not a single person has raised that issue with me. So I have to tell you that it may be the talk of the media, but it's not actually the talk of the football fraternity, or if it is, they're not talking to the right people.
Wage capping has been successfully introduced into League Two. Would you like to see that introduced across all the leagues?
Well, you know I would. I have spent a year and a half trying to put some sort of salary cap stroke control mechanism in place for the whole of the league. Because the business model of professional football in this country doesn't work. It's broke. And you see that reflected in the administrations and all the rest of it. I have some clubs in the Football League who are paying up to 85% of their income in wages. I don't care how great you are. You may be the best business entrepreneur the country has ever come up with, but you cannot run a sustainable business with that sort of model. You can do it for a short time, a few years maybe, but ultimately that's not sustainable. It's not. I think I have given the issues a reasonable profile. I think even those who don't approve of me would probably concede that. Our championship clubs in particular are not yet ready to commit. I'm relaxed. But it'll happen. Because what is going on presently is not sustainable in the medium term.
Would you like to see more fan involvement in the ownership and running of some Football League clubs?
I think the truthful answer is I don't know what the answer is. We've had a number of supporters' trusts pioneered in the Football League, and a few of them have been very positive and constructive. Whether the fan on the terrace actually feels much different, I've never been able quite to bottom out. Some of them didn't really work out, and perhaps one of the problems is that fans organisations may find it more difficult to attract extra investment, which if you keep spending more than you've got becomes a necessity. So it would be easy for me to sit here and say, yeah, absolutely, fans are great. I mean, I know one club, which shall be nameless, where a supporters trust director got onto the board of the club to represent the fans. And it all ended in tears because his fiduciary responsibility as a director of the club meant that he couldn't tell the supporters trust people a lot of what was going on, and they thought they would have access to all the inside information. But hey, if you're a company director under British law, you have certain rules and regulations that you have to observe, and that includes not being able to share information with people outside the board. So it's a great idea. It's been a bit patchy. Do I think that fans should be encouraged to take more of an interest in their club? Yes, I do. I mean, and I told you we put in sporting sanctions to give a bit of leverage to fans in dealing with their own directors. This may not make me hugely popular, but I think the jury's out still on clubs just run by supporters' trusts. There have been some great examples. York City probably wouldn't exist today had it not been for the supporters' trust. Okay? So this is not a knock it all down, but there are other examples where it hasn't just been such a great success.
It's the last one, I promise you. The league's been using transfer embargoes more this season. Now, some supporters say that means that their clubs are now having to put players who are injured on the bench. Is that a fair accusation?
I have no idea. I mean, you make a huge generalisation and then ask me to comment on it. But I'll tell you what I will say to you, which is, if the Football League has any reason to exist, apart from organising competitions, it is to protect the integrity of the game. To see that no club, by behaving inappropriately, gets an advantage over the other clubs in its league. And breaking regulations gives clubs an advantage over their competitors in their league. So it is our job to A, police the regulations, and B, with the approval of all of the clubs, because we don't dream these things up, we get powers from the clubs to act to protect those regulations and to apply sanctions to those who break the regulations, and the sanctions are there to send a message which says the integrity of the competition is hugely important, because you'd never go and watch a football match if you thought the result was fixed, right? So when clubs are being embargoed, they're being sanctioned for breaking regulations, and that ought to be welcomed by fans, because that's their guarantee, or it's part of their guarantee, that the competition that they are watching, the games that they are watching, are marked by integrity.
Lord Mulwiney, thank you very much.
Thank you.